Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, finally, we are here for the second season on the Crack platform. It's in fact a goosebumpish feeling for me and Palak also to start the second season. Along with all of you, I can already see 66 people. And as always, I think we'll get to 100 plus as we go along in the next 2-3 minutes. Thanks all of you for joining. Happy Ganesh Chaturthi. It's Ganesh Chaturthi here in India. I say India separately because today as the guest speaker, we have Charanya with us. Charanya joins us from San Francisco. She right now is working with PayPal in the Silicon Valley, has had experiences across BCG, has her marketing and engineering degree from India first and then an Harvard degree for the full-time course. Also, she has worked in the Tata Leadership Program. Before this, Charanya, I can't finish your introductions normally when I start. Welcome to the Crack platform, and it's absolute pleasure to have you with us.
Likewise, Debojit, it's great to be on this platform. You and Palak have done a tremendous job of scaling, a wonderful platform like this in such a short amount of time. So very happy to be here.
Guys, it's already 76 of you. As always, let's start with a small question. How many of you just write a yes or a no on the chat box? You know the rules. You remember the rules, right? You have to mention everything on the chat box. Keep yourself on mute. Please keep asking questions on the chat box, and we'll keep coming to you as and when slotted for your questions. There will be a moderator also. Bharat is joining us as the moderator today, who will take up questions as and when necessary. So, okay, question number one from me to start with. How many of you are working from home during this lockdown? Just mention a yes or a no on the chat room. Manu says yes. Ankit, Dharvig, someone said, Tavish says no. Tavish is going to office. Interesting. Kezia Neshleen says no. Srijita, Shahrukh, Shivam, many, Srihari, Umesh, Renu, Netra, so many says yes. Netra says I'm going to office after saying a yes. So her home is her office. That's good to know. Piyush says no. Piyush is working in an FMCG company. Interesting. Piyush, that must be tough for you. Ramya says no. Srihari says no. So interesting. A lot of things have changed, guys, and therefore the session today also becomes very, very relevant in how you are adapting yourself to the change that has happened in the last 3-4 months. That is there in front of all of us. Great. So I'll project my screen and take you through and start a very interesting topic that we have in front of us today, which is talking about the growth mindset. In order to explain you what it is really about, I want to show you, to start with some pictures, that you will relate with, and I hope you know. How many of you know this person that I'm showing on the screen? Can I have a quick yes or a no will also do if you are not aware of who this person is? If
Or
there
you
are,
can type the name of the person.
yeah, you can actually even type the name of the person. Someone says Manisha Koirala. Interesting. Good you didn't say Madhuri Dixit. Someone someone says JK. So that's a neighbor. Fantastic. Some Shampa says no. Piyush says no. Interesting. So I think all of you at least would know about the character Harry Potter, and J.K. Rowling is the author of the famous book Harry Potter. But did you interestingly know that there were 10 different publishers who rejected her books uh, before eventually one London-based publisher accepted it, the book called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. 10 different rejections. This was the time she got fired from a job. She had to divorce her first husband and went through a lot. In fact, went through a lot of financial struggle also. Do you know this person? Can I have a quick yes or a no on this person? Okay, we have Bhumika, Shivam, Shahrukh, many people saying yes. Charlie Chaplin, Gaurav Agarwal helps all of us know who this person is. Yes, all of you are right. But did you know Mr. Charlie Chaplin got rejected by 8 different Hollywood studios because they thought what he does is nonsense. And the activities that he does is absolute shit. Now, uh, and now you know who he has eventually become. In fact, I was reading yesterday that there are 40 different films that has happened on Charlie Chaplin's in different countries based on him, not by him. There are more than hundreds that he did, but there are 40 different that was based on his life. Do you know who this person is? Finally, I think I'll have all yeses, mainly from the India crowd. Yes, 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 yes. But interestingly, he's a third class in his BA, or you can call it the third grade, depending on which country you're attending it from. He quit politics till Advani called him back to politics also. And all of us know that he's the famous tea seller during his school days near the Gandhinagar railway station. So imagine the transformation. What would have led to all these transformation? There are numerous examples, guys. I would want to end with my favorite heroine in Bollywood. She doesn't do too many films these days. I don't know what marriage has changed for her, but she's absolutely gorgeous, fantastic in the way she comes on the screen. I've loved her roles in Goliyo Ki Ras Leela, Ram Leela, in Tamasha. She was fantastic. But did you know she has gone through many years of depression? Her first movie did relatively okay, but then after that had 5 or 6 flops, and eventually bounced back in her life. Now, all of this, guys, is a function of a very specific skill that we are going to talk about today, which is called the growth mindset. Growth mindset is about bouncing back from failures. Growth mindset is about understanding what is a feedback, understanding what is a criticism that will help you grow, and therefore coming back. On this note, I want to open a poll for all of you, and all of you will have a poll that will come on your screen, and you can type the correct answer. Yes, it's visible now. The question is, what kind of praise do you relate with more? All of us have praised someone or the other, right? Family members, office members, team members, sometimes in front of them, sometimes behind them. What kind of praise do you relate with more? Option 1, ability praise, where you say, great, you're the star, you're smart, you're intelligent. Second, process praise, where you say, I liked how you achieved what you achieved. I like the strategies that you did when you solved the problem. You say that when you praise the person. Third is an improvement praise. Fantastic. You move from grade B to grade A. You move from a 70% to a 90%. You were achieving 20% targets. Now you're at 60%. That's an improvement praise. And last is a silent praise. Let's not praise him this time. I'll praise him the next time, him or her. Because this is a smaller occasion, I wait for the bigger occasion. Which one do you associate with more? Quickly select your answer and press submit. It's a very easy one. I will select mine. What do I do? Okay, I press submit. I wait for yours. Okay, so out of the 100 plus people on the call, 50% have already, 60% now, 70% now have already taken their option. 30% left, 76% people I can see on the screen. It goes, Shampa Banerjee, in fact, is writing on the chat box. Bindu also has written on the chat box on what they think is the correct answer. Okay, can we have the options, answers, please? Okay, so 48% people, interestingly, have chosen that we should go for the process praise, or they do go for the process praise, where they're saying that they talk about how they did what they did. 15%, in fact, 30% people go for the improvement praise. They say, okay, okay, you've improved from grade B to grade A. Just think about it a little deeper, guys, whether we are actually following the process praise or the improvement praise. I won't tell you the right answers now. I think end of the session would be the better occasion, but this was more to open up our minds on what are we doing on a day-to-day basis. Also, some very interesting, did you know? Data says only 2% people actually follow their dreams with confidence and excitement. Only 2%. The rest, 98% of the population, enjoying being everyone else. They let life push them into submission because they have no guts. They are okay by following what everyone else is following. Only 2% of the population go for their dreams with confidence and excitement. Data also says 40% students have a fixed mindset and 60% have a growth mindset. But when you move from a student to a professional or to an adult, 76% adults have a fixed mindset, and only 24% remain with a growth mindset. A lot of questions might be coming. What is this fixed mindset and growth mindset? What is this all about? And can we exactly know, how can we have the concept of growth mindset? So on this note, I would hand over to Charanya on what Confucius has told all of us. Our greatest glory is not in never failing, but in rising every time we fall. And therefore, Charanya, over the next few minutes, guys, will take us through the what and why of this concept of growth mindset. Over to you, Charanya.
Thanks, Devajit, for that great introduction. And to me, it's absolutely encouraging to see 48% of the people already know process praise. So, this session would be less of an education session, but more of a reminder session for all of us in terms of how we can inspire and encourage each other to pursue growth mindset on a day-to-day basis. So let's look at what's the difference between fixed mindset and growth mindset. Fixed mindset is what I grew up with. So if you take skills, fixed mindset assumes that you're born with your skill set, that you cannot change the skill set that you have. Whereas growth mindset believes that with hard work, you can conquer everything and you can always improve. And there is neurological evidence to back this up. So the way that your brain works is your neurons get stimulated. So every time you sort of you try something, you attempt something, and you keep pursuing it, the neural networks in your brain, they get fired up and they become stronger. And there is a scientific basis behind growth mindset. The next thing is your challenges. If you have a fixed mindset, you think challenge is a bad word. You think it has to be avoided. You think if you're intelligent, you shouldn't have challenges, like everything should be easy for you. And you tend to give up easily or move away, or you get discouraged by challenges. Whereas with a growth mindset, you understand that challenge is something that you should embrace. Like a challenge is something that should excite you. You see it as an opportunity where you can grow on an everyday basis, and it helps build that skill of persistence. The third bucket here is effort. With fixed mindset, you often think effort is unnecessary. We have this belief in India where it's like, hey, this person is very intelligent. Like this person just parties all morning, they write the exam, and then they do really well. And we have a lot of respect for such people. But that's where fixed mindset comes in. It sort of thinks that effort is unnecessary. It thinks effort brings you down. It's something you do when you're not good enough. Whereas growth mindset really thinks of effort as essential. It's a path, it's a normal and a gradual path towards mastery of your skill set. And then feedback. Feedback is a very critical component of growth mindset. So think about the last time somebody gave you feedback. It could be about the way you communicate. It could be about the way you said something to them that offended them. It could be about the work that you turned in. It could be about anything. Did you take it very personally? Did you get defensive? Or did you realize that's a learning moment for you, an opportunity where you can learn something and identify areas to improve? So feedback particularly is very important. When you have 15-20 years in your career, you realize that very few people give you feedback. You don't know what people are thinking about you. And knowing that, having that mirror, having somebody tell you what they really feel about you is such a useful tool in the process of self-growth and self-improvement. So these are some aspects. The last one is setbacks, where when you encounter failures or setbacks, do you blame others? Do you blame the situation? Do you get discouraged? Or do you use that as a wake-up call to work harder the next time around? And let's broadly look at this. And there's a reason why the picture in the growth mindset is more colored. Your neurons really do fire up, and there is scientific proof for this, and I'll show you that later. So quickly walking through some of this. With a fixed mindset, your brain avoids challenges. You stay away from things you don't know. You're unable to handle criticism or feedback. You think intelligence and talent is often static. You don't carry out actions without seeking the approval of your superior. You're often focused on proving yourself. And just take notes. If some of these resonate with you in terms of your personality, this is a great time for self retrospection. Like, I'm so glad that so many of you have set aside a Saturday afternoon to do this, because this itself is the first step in growth mindset, where you can think of, like, which category do you fall. And not all of us are 100% growth or 100% fixed. In some of the attributes you might be this way or that way. So as I'm in this slide, just take a moment to reflect and think of where you are in each of these attributes. Do you focus on proving yourself? Are you threatened by the success of others? When you see people successful, or enjoying their vacations on Facebook, do you think great, happy, and do you feel inspired that it's a great place to go? Or are you annoyed that that person is showing off? Do you think effort is not regarded fruitful? Or do you give up easily? Versus all of these, like in the growth mindset, you see challenges as opportunities. You embrace your weaknesses. There's nothing to be ashamed about weaknesses. Like, nobody is perfect. You learn to give and you receive constructive criticism. And intelligence and talent you assume is dynamic. You're not born with intelligence. I'm sorry if you grew up thinking you're intelligent or you're smart or you're dumb or you're stupid. None of this matters. Like, nobody is intelligent or smart. It's all about the effort that you put in. Do you prioritize learning? Do you focus on the process? And this is a very critical thing, and we'll spend more time on this in the end. Are you always motivated by the outcome, or are you focused on the processes? So for example, let's say you're preparing for an exam. Do you work towards the result, or do you enjoy the process of writing the exam? And then, okay, we have a comment from Pragya who says she finds she or he, I'm sorry, I want to be gender neutral with this. I generally try to be gender neutral in the idea of being more inclusive. That's a feedback that somebody gave me. I find taking negative feedback a little difficult. Can you please give me some tips and tricks that might help me? Yeah, very, very happy to spend some time in the end when we get to the process of, like, how do you take negative feedback? And growth mindset, like, just understanding that feedback will enable you to get negative feedback, right? Very quickly, feedback is offensive when you think somebody has insulted who you are. Feedback can be a gift if you think that's a way for you to improve. So you cannot climb the next step if there's no light showing where the next step is. What feedback is like a torchlight on where the next step is. And when somebody shines that torchlight, you know you can climb that next step and you can get there. So that's just the mental makeup of how you think about feedback, and we can spend more time on this in the end. Are you inspired by the successes of others? Do you see failure as an opportunity to grow, and do you persist during setbacks? And I'd love to share many personal examples here. So, obviously, like, I grew up in a place where we did not have the idea of growth mindset. Several years ago, you just heard in classrooms, in your family, everywhere, children were classified as intelligent or dumb or stupid or capable or not. So when I finished my 12th standard, I wanted to be a doctor. I couldn't get my medical admission. And at that time, I did not take responsibility for my actions. I just blamed the environment. I said it was because of the reservations. I said it was because of the way this one question was worded. I did not take responsibility for not getting my medical admission. And then I eventually went into engineering, like what most of us do in India. I like to joke that all of us do engineering in India, and then we figure out what we want to do with our lives. So we all went to do engineering, where I found some courses to be really hard than I expected, and I would be working hard on those courses. And I thought that was such a bad thing. Like, I would think, oh my god, I'm working so hard while the other person is enjoying their life and they still get better grades than me. And I felt like I was not cut off for this subject, or I wasn't cut off for engineering, which in hindsight is such a terrible way to think about it. Like, I was doing the right thing. I was putting my effort in the right way towards an outcome, towards a goal. I then wrote CAT. I didn't clear it the first time. And guess who I blame this time? This time it wasn't reservations or anything I could blame. This time I blame my astrology for it. I was like, well, something is going wrong in my life. I never seem to get what I want. Like, my stars are not aligned. Something is wrong with my with the way the time that I was born. And then the second time I wrote my CAT, I didn't get into IIM. I got into SP Jain. And I felt like, well, I made one or two careless mistakes, and I missed IIM by a small cutoff. I'm too intelligent for SP Jain. I'm really intelligent. I should have been at IIM, but here I am at SP Jain. It's okay. So I went in with so much of this attitude into SP Jain. And in the very first week of SP Jain, we had an exam in accounting where I failed. Like I literally failed. And so it was like the end of life. It was a shocker. Like all I grew up thinking I was intelligent, I was capable, I blamed the environment when I couldn't read. But this was the first time that I actually failed. Like I didn't even pass in a subject. And I went into depression for a few hours. I thought I'm not cut out for SP Jain. I started packing my suitcase to go back from Bombay to Chennai. When the accounting teacher called me to speak, and I thought, that's it, she's going to say you're not cut out for this, you have to go back. And I was thinking of all the humiliation I have to face, like face my parents, face all my friends, and tell them that I was sent out of SP Jain because I was not cut out for it. So I went in there, and the teacher called me and said, look, you're an engineer, you've never seen accounting before. It's common for a lot of engineers to struggle with accounting at the beginning, but once you understand what it is, you will become so much better at this. And she also said, all of you who come to SP Jain, you've been high achievers in your own merit in all of your colleges before this, and you suddenly come in here, which is a further concentrated pool of high achievers. And if you don't, you're obviously not going to be the best person here, and you feel like you're a failure. But don't worry, this is common. Accounting is not rocket science. Let me help you understand it. And she spent 1 hour teaching me the basics of accounting. And 2 days later, I wrote that test again, and I scored like 100% in that test. So indirectly at that point, I learned growth mindset. Like some of the things that she said was so much of growth mindset. I did not know this existed back then. Like she said, this is the first time you're seeing accounting. Obviously, it's going to be hard. And so obviously you need to understand, and let me help you a little bit. And, with a little bit of effort, you can get there. So indirectly, I learned growth mindset for the first time at SP Jain. So let me give you, let me give you an example of a challenge over here. So let's say a student receives a poor grade on an assignment or an exam. If the student believes that their intelligence is fixed, which is what I thought when I was at SP Jain, I immediately went from, I'm stupid at this, I shouldn't even bother trying, like I should pack my bags and I should go home. And immediately, what did I do? I didn't pick up my accounting book saying, I'm going to crack this. I started packing my suitcase. I gave up. I wanted to go back home. And I was thinking of, how do I face my parents? How do I tell them I'm a failure? And because of that, for a couple of hours, I had diminished academic engagement and performance, and there was so much negative outcome. Whereas if I had known that intelligence is not fixed, that intelligence can grow, I wouldn't have, I would have just thought, well, that's because I don't know accounting yet. And I would have gone to the professor myself and said, with more effort, with some help from you, I can perhaps conquer this. And that would have led to, a positive outlook towards education itself, where I'm now curious to learn, where I want to do something right. So Debajit, do you remember me at SP Jain? Would you have guessed that after graduating from SP, knowing me back then, do you think I would have gone on to do TAS, strategy work, and then Harvard Business School, and then work in BCG and Silicon Valley? Did you ever predict at SP Jain that I would have this career trajectory?
Not in my wildest of dreams, Sharan. I would be frank. I always thought that you would go for a marketing and branding career because you were always creative. I think that is one thing that you would have acquired from birth. But I think you were pretty average in analytics, if I may say that. Business strategy would be too large a word, but definitely maths and analytics, I would not place my bets with you. So,
thank you for that honest feedback, Debajit. And that too in front of 125 people who are on this call. Thank you. So yeah, that is true. What Debajit says is true. And right now, I am frankly, I'm one of the top performers at one of the most competitive places for analytics, which is Silicon Valley. And how did I get here? It wasn't an easy journey. I just wanted to do well. At every step of the way, I was just maximizing, and I started enjoying it beyond beyond a point. I started enjoying the idea of analytics and the idea of, like, diving into data and looking at it. And the more I started enjoying it, the more my neurons started firing in that. And now I can easily say with confidence that I'm perhaps one of the foremost experts in the field of analytics and data. So that is where we come to a very important concept, which is the power of not yet. What is not yet? So in schools, all of you, we received marks. You either received a 20 or a 30 or a 100. And now, the system has become more liberal, so students receive grades. You think of F or an A or a B or an A minus. But that is where you get into the idea of fixed mindset, where you think I'm an F student, or I'm an A student, I'm a B minus student. But that is not how education should be. It's about harnessing the power of not yet. Well, I'm not good at this today. That doesn't mean I'm going to be bad at this tomorrow. There is a path, there is a journey, and if I do it in the right way, if I get help from the right people, I'm not yet there. But I will be there tomorrow, I will get there eventually. So there is this TED talk. I highly encourage everyone to see that. The talk has about 11 million viewers. It's by Carol Dweck. She coined the term growth mindset, and she speaks a lot of the power of not yet. So honestly, this is our education system. The exam is like a tree. And all of us, we have different capabilities. Some of us are like the monkey, some of us are like the elephant, some of us are like the fish in the bowl. There's a seal, there's a dog. All of us come with different abilities. Like human beings, there are 7 billion of us. Each of us come with varying different abilities. And that is what makes the world so beautiful. Like, not everybody knows analytics. Not everybody can be creative. Not everybody can be storytellers. Not everybody can be artists. So each one of us have a different propensity, a different inclination. And unfortunately, exams, what they do is, it's just a very singular view of like one particular thing in one particular time, and that ends up being what defines people. So I know a lot of people who probably did not do well in 12th, and then that they let them define that. Their entire life became contained in that little box of definition, where they thought, well, I am not good at this. And immediately depletes all our potential. So in Bay Area, there's a fantastic school called the Khan Lab School. I don't know how many of you know Salman Khan. He's also a Harvard alumnus, and he runs the Khan Academy website. So it's a fantastic website. He believes education should be free, and that website is like a non-profit where anybody can go and learn. So Khan, he started a school here, Sal Khan. He started a school here called the Khan Lab School. And what this school does is, it doesn't have classrooms based on age. It has classrooms based on ability. So you could be a 5-year-old or you could be a 15-year-old. They look at your ability. So are you doing algebra? Are you doing pre-algebra? Are you doing geometry? You go into that class. It doesn't matter what your age is. Who is to say that as a 15-year-old, you shouldn't be learning addition? Maybe you can still learn it. Like, nobody should say you can't learn it at that point in your life, right? And so that's the idea of that classroom, where independent of your age, you go into a classroom that matches your ability, and you demonstrate that you master at least 80% of the content in that grade, in that level. And after that, you move to the next classroom. And that might take you 2 months, that might take you 2 years. There's no pressure on you. There's no exam. There's no deadline. There's nothing saying, there's nothing telling you that, you should only do it within a year. And just think of it. So many of us were like 16 when our lives were defined. We did well in our board exams. We did not do well. And then eventually that defined the college we went to, and eventually the trajectory of our life. Unfortunately, that is not how our education system should be. And Carol has proof for this. So in her talk, she shows this image of fixed mindset versus growth mindset. This is based on actual brain scans, where children who are brought up with this growth mindset, you can see their neurons are firing at a much faster pace. Whereas when you have a fixed mindset, your brain becomes dormant. Your neurons stop firing. And there were experiments conducted in school. So what happens when a growth mindset intervention happens? So they took 2 cohorts of children in a classroom. With one cohort, they instilled the idea of fixed mindset, where they said, hey, you have limited capabilities, here you go. John is the smart student, Jim is not a very smart student. They let that idea thrive. And then with the other set of students, they were like, hey, all of you are capable. This is growth mindset. And it's not about just any, it's not the usual inspiring thing of like all of us can achieve it. Come on, no, I'm not getting into that inspiring part at all. I'm telling you from scientific evidence that these that you can, with effort, you can help your neurons work in that direction, and you can be better at what you want to do. So we had these two classrooms, and there was a clear divergence in their math GPA when this experiment was conducted. So clearly, the control group, which was brought up with a fixed mindset, there was a decrease in grades, because at that point, at least the first exam students try. The second exam, you tell them that this is what they are capable of, and then nothing else more. They stop trying. Like, why should they put in effort? Whereas the first group, you tell them that with effort they can achieve things, and then they go on to put in that effort that translates into outcomes. Or Dunning-Kruger effect. I love this effect. So this is about how do you go about the process of learning? And the learning process is often uncomfortable. So let's deconstruct that a little bit. Initially, when you take up a new subject, your confidence is low, your competence is low. And sometimes we don't know enough about a topic. We'll start at the point of like, yeah, I know everything, like this is easy, I know this. But truly our competence might be low. Many of us start even further down the graph, where we sort of think we know, or you think you never understand this, and your competence is still low. But as you keep putting in effort, you realize you get to a point where your competence in that field starts increasing, your confidence starts increasing, and you see, well, it's making sense right now. And then finally you get to a point where you truly understand, like now you master the subject, you genuinely know if you're competent or not. And your confidence also is high, because it stems from the fact that you've done it, and you can do it. It doesn't stem from the fact that somebody told you that you were good at it. So there's this thing called imposter syndrome, which many people suffer from. Like, you feel like a fraud sometimes, where you think, I don't deserve to be here, like it's just luck and chance that led me to be here. And imposter syndrome could sometimes be a side effect of this, where it's really not effort that drove you to that place, but just a sequence of events. Whereas every time you put in the effort, and that effort was what brought you to that outcome, you will not have imposter syndrome any longer. And this is the Desi Dunning-Kruger effect. I don't know how many of you, understand Hindi here. Perhaps a good proportion of you who are from the Hindi-speaking belt. But I love this, which deconstructs the Dunning-Kruger effect in a very Desi, palatable way for us.
I can see, Charanya, you're yourself also not taking the risk of mentioning the words, but yeah, it kind of summarizes it beautifully, and kind of use the right word, deconstructs it for all of us. So Charanya, I'll take over here for the next few minutes in, I think, explaining the how part of it. You spoke about the what and why of growth mindset, and was very thought provoking. I also went into many examples and moments of my childhood and in my graduation and my early professional life, where there were difficult choices that I had faced. In where should I go for the option which has a little bit of risk, which has a little bit of challenges, or do I stay for the more comfortable option? So before I therefore go into the how, I would want to introduce one more poll. If the poll can come on the screen for everyone. Guys, very simple question I'm asking all of you, based on what Charanya said and based on your own life till now. When faced with a difficult choice in life, I chose. I'm not asking what will you choose. I'm asking what did you choose in the past? Did you choose the high risk option, which would lead to higher returns? Or did you choose the low risk option, which would lead to assured returns? See, it's also necessary in life a lot of times that you go for the assured option, but sometimes it becomes important that you go for the higher return option. So what have you chosen? All of you, I'm sure, have had many occasions in life where you have got such difficult choices. I've answered mine. I've given my answer. 60% people I can see on the screen have already answered. I'll wait for it to cross maybe 75%. So we are at 70% now. 5% more. If you can quickly choose, and that will lay context to what I'm going to speak on the how part of it. How can you actually acquire growth mindset? Yeah, I have 75% now. Can I have the results on the screen? Okay, great. So as correctly coming out, you can see 61% people on the call right now say that they have gone for the low risk option, which leads to assured returns. Data says actually 98% of us take the low risk option daily in life. We go for the comfortable option daily in life when we very much know that our passion lies with option number one, when we very much know that there might be some challenges that will come in the way. I think many of you have seen DDLJ, Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. I remember Charina and I had seen it in the famous Maratha Mandir, which stayed for, I think, 15, 20 years after the movie was released. A very famous dialogue that Shah Rukh Khan says in that movie, where he talks about taking the slightly more difficult option, which would lead you to the correct outcome eventually. And I'll base what I'm going to speak on that context. The how part, guys, I will divide into three simple parts. First is how can we control our thoughts in order to reach to the growth mindset. Second is how can I control my habits? A little bit Charana had spoken about when she was speaking. And the last bit is how can I harness the power of words? Coming to thoughts, I read this very famous experiment and I can tell you that I got mesmerized by the kind of outcomes this experiment had. This is an experiment that happened on Stanford students in 1971, where 24 Stanford students were taken to prison and 12 of them were made to act as prisoners and 12 of them were made to act like guards. Very simple. 12 people were made that now you'll stay in a prison, you'll get limited food, you will have a very non-well kept place to stay with. Obviously, the sanitary conditions will not be great. In fact, they were provided a bucket for both urination and defecating. You might be subject to abuse, not physical, but maybe mental, psychological. And the rest 12 were supposed to do all of that. Who were the guards? They were supposed to actually make life difficult and difficult for them. If you would believe me, the experiment had to be stopped after 7 days because people in both their roles had completely started assuming they were that role in their real life. One person actually had turned insane and had to be moved out of the prison. The others in the prisoners were asking for parole instead of saying, I want to stop this experiment. They were saying, please leave us. The remaining 12 people who were guards, in fact, were disappointed when it was stopped because they were feeling happy with the power of being a guard, of being a police officer, and being able to exercise power. Now imagine, if just 7 days of regular habit can do this to you, what can a lifetime do to you? This is the first thing in the how that I wanted to talk to all of you. And I would encourage all of you to read about the famous Stanford prison experiment if you want to understand what I'm speaking about. Our minds are very easy to fool. If you start believing something is true, our minds automatically starts creating a condition of that is true. In fact, the famous book by Rhonda Byrne called The Secret exactly talks about that, where you start believing something so much that you convert it to be true. And therefore, the power of your mind is the first big one in the growth mindset, where you believe I'm going to get a good job, where you believe I'm going to get into a good college, where you believe that I am good enough for getting great grades, for example, or grades mean nothing. So first part is in the thoughts, in power of belief. The second thing that I want to talk about, I think a lot of people have spoken about it in their books, in their speeches, is the power of habit. Now, the power of habit singularly focuses on the fact that you have to focus more on the process than the outcome. I was excited to see a lot of you, in fact, majority of you selected that you would go for the process praise in your life. This particular habit loop that you can see on your screen very simply is that you have to have three things when you're following the habit loop. The first is a cue. What is a cue? Cue is something that will remind you that you have to follow a certain habit. Waking up in the morning through an alarm is a cue. Time for a lot of us is a cue. For example, time for exams, time for targets, time for submitting a certain assignment. Cue is something that would remind you to follow that habit. Post that comes a routine. So for example, if you want to exercise every day morning, a cue could be an alarm. A cue could be someone waking you up. A cue could be early morning noise that would come if you are very close to traffic. And then therefore you start exercising, which is the routine part of it. If you are actually able to exercise regularly, then the third part comes in where you would reward yourself. So cue, routine, reward. Cue, routine, reward helps you get into the growth mindset also very easily. But it will not happen if you focus on the outcome. It will only happen if you focus on the process of reaching to the growth mindset. I've put an example on the screen. Don't say I am going to lose 5 kilo by the end of the year. A lot of people take the resolution. Forget end of the year, they take that resolution every day, sometimes every month. Keep asking their friends, their colleagues, am I looking fat? The better resolution to take is I'm going to work out for 10 minutes every day and then follow the cue, routine, reward mechanism. So the cue could be that, okay, whenever I come back from work or whenever I wake up in the morning, that's when I'm going to exercise. Routine could be that I exercise 10 minutes in the morning or evening. Reward could be you reward yourself with a chocolate or even a gift or whatever. Maybe a phone call to one of your long lost friends. So this is the second bit. The third bit that I would want to talk about is harnessing the power of words. Now, this is a very, very important one. What we say or what we speak is a big part of what we eventually believe in. I'll give you some examples. For example, saying I'm not good at this. I've repeatedly heard so many people talking about I'm not good at this. In fact, Charanya and I would remember some examples of this, of us telling each other, I'm not good at this at something during college. It can be replaced with, I'm not good at this yet. I think I love the example Charanya spoke about the Chicago school where they give actually a not yet grade to students. It's not an F, it's a not yet. So you know that I'm not good at this yet, but you will learn. You will practice and become better at it. A lot of times we say this is too hard or this is too easy. This is too hard has to get replaced with this will require effort and finding out the right strategy. Just day before yesterday, one of my team members was saying, oh God, writing professional emails is something that I just can't do. This is too hard for me. I can get you revenue. I can get it's done, but I can't write these long professional emails. That after about 40-45 minutes of effort of understanding what a professional email means, changed to great. In fact, I can see results now. And in fact, when today he got a great reply to the email he had written, he realized work is so much easier to do when you know this particular skill. I'm afraid I'll make a mistake. This is a big one. A lot of people don't take risks in life because they feel they'll make a mistake. Again, as data suggests, in one of the sessions in season 1, we saw 70% people are not in the profession of their choice. And this is globally. If you come to India, it becomes 87%. It's mind-boggling. Because they feel they'll make a mistake. Because they feel it's a risk. They give up. What if it can be replaced is, when I make a mistake, I learn from it. Edison said, I learned 100 ways of not doing it correctly and therefore did it correctly in the 101st time. And he discovered electricity. I can't do this. This is good enough. I can't do this. This is not the right thing for me. Or this is good enough. I don't want to do more than me. On the right of the screen, you can move to what you can say. Guys, this is not, I'm not giving you a knowledge dissemination when I say you should say this. What I'm trying to help you with is I'm trying to tell you, if you can move to saying these words. See, firstly, when you say these words, it will feel hollow. You might just say this, but it will not feel complete. But if you keep saying this daily, on a day-to-day basis, after a point of time, it will start becoming real for you. You will start believing in what you say. So to an extent, you will have to fake it till you make it. But harnessing the power of words is you're telling your own system that this is how I need to operate, which will help you get into the growth mindset. I want to end with this famous concept that I came up, which is called the CV of failures. I've actually put up the CV of failure for a very, very famous Princeton University professor, Mr. Johannes Hochhofer, who publicly put up his CV of failures, and till date about millions of people have liked it on the social media platform, where he says these are the degree programs I did not get into. In 2008, I did not get into Stockholm School of Economics. In 2003, I did not crack the course in medicine, did not have the PhD program in psychology. In 99, I did not get into BA in international relations. These are the academic positions I did not get into. I did not get into Harvard. I did not get into UC Berkeley. I did not get into MIT. And that CV of failures have got celebrated by millions of people. And in fact, after that, famous CEOs of organizations have put up their CV of failures online, and you can go through and read through them. Forget all these famous people. All of us have so many failures. In fact, if you want to make a CV of failures, it will take you lesser time than the time you make in making the CV of successes. Imagine putting it up and then celebrating it. Fears that you have will slowly start evaporating because you have been able to accept. Charanya said a very important point. Are you accepting your weaknesses, your failures? And that will push you to become more and more successful as you go along. And this has been tried by various people across the globe very, very successfully. Therefore, as Carol Dweck famously mentions, and Charanya showed her study, please go and see her TED Talk also. She says, love challenges, be intrigued by mistakes, enjoy effort, and therefore keep on learning. That's the summary of the session that we were trying to take. I'll open it up, therefore, now to questions. We have mentioned some of the things that we have spoken about in our session. Bharat, if you can help us, I see a lot of questions that have already come in with some of the questions that you feel that Charanya and I can answer.
Yeah, definitely, Debojit. So I think first question that came up was from Pragya. And so I would like to club these questions because there are like similar questions on this. So like, how do you deal with the negative feedback? And to club it with the question asked by Parag, sometimes people give intentional negative feedback. So how do you deal with that?
Right. So I worked at BCG, and it was a difficult working environment because you get feedback every week from your boss, and it's often not good news, right? So feedback is very difficult to hear. Let's acknowledge that. Nobody likes to feel weak, especially when if you perceive your weakness, it's fine. But if somebody else points out your weakness, especially an area that you are not aware of so far, the first reaction is always defensiveness. Oh, no, that is not who I am. Like, no, I don't think so. No, I think you got it wrong. I think you're being intentional. I think you're trying to be demeaning here. I think you're trying to put me down. But just take a step back. I know it's very difficult to sort of control your emotions when somebody has something negative to tell you. There's a whole concept on how to give feedback in a way that is not detrimental to the person who's receiving the feedback, but that's for another session. Debojit might handle that. But when you receive feedback, even if it's bitter when you hear it, just take a step back. Like, you'll immediately want to react. You'll say, no, this is not me. You're deliberately doing this. Just say thank you. Just say thank you and walk away. It does not come easily. It took me a year at BCG to be able to stop being defensive. Like, I'd be like, no, you got it wrong. Like, this is what I intended. No, stop all that. Like, people will not give you feedback if you're going to be defensive. Just say thank you, walk away. 2 days later, think about it. Now, it might sometimes make you feel bad for a couple of hours, and that's totally okay. Like, that's the process of learning and developing, like the Dunning-Kruger effect, right? Remember, it's not easy. Learning is not a comfortable process. If you're comfortable, it means you're not pushing yourself. So first is like awareness. Where am I? And that is where feedback becomes very critical. And so the more you start practicing, like letting go of your ego and being able to take feedback from others, and that's still work in progress. I've definitely become much better, but can I be even better? Yes, and I'm trying to do that. And honestly, I've worked in India, I've worked in Silicon Valley. I think some of the places I've worked in Silicon Valley are just fantastic to work for, because there is this open conversation. Like, I had a meeting with my manager last week where I gave him bad feedback on how he was treating me, and he immediately apologized. So the very next day he came back, and he came back with a plan saying, every time I say something like that, tell me about my tone, warn me about my tone. I'm not doing it intentionally. So he came back and he apologized, and that immediately, makes the communication channel easier between us. I trust him more now, he trusts me more now, and that brought us closer together. Whereas I could have let it spiral away. Like, I could have not given him feedback, or he could have been defensive and said, get lost, nobody else thinks that way, you're the only one. The outcome wouldn't have been achieved. So feedback is uncomfortable. Acknowledge that and process that.
Bharat, I think you're
Next
on mute. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Aranya. So, and just a follow-up question for Devojit on this, since you spoke about the how part. So, does the credibility of person plays any role? Like, how do we take a feedback?
Yeah. So,
As in, the person who's
yeah.
giving the feedback.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, to add on to what Charanya said to this answer, feedback sometimes is also very positive. I mean, feedback the first understanding is you'll have to take feedback as a neutral thing. Whether it's a praise, you should not go overboard, and whether it's an area of improvement. Then also, I absolutely adore the fact she said thank you and move on. That's very important. Bharat, to answer the question, credibility should have no connect to the feedback that you're receiving. It's a right question, because a lot of times we only take feedback of seniors or slightly more credible people to be the right feedback, and we ignore the feedback that someone, let's say, lesser than us professionally at that point, or maybe sometimes even family and friends are giving us. But a feedback is a feedback and is an opportunity to improve. Forget people, even as organizations we get a lot of feedback from the market, right? And China, in fact, is globally leading consumer insights and would just be receiving feedback all the time for feedback. How are we receiving it as an organization? Do we say no, we don't care about what you think, or do we say okay, we take it very seriously and let's see what we can do in order to change that? So that, irrespective of the credibility of the person, becomes important.
Thank you, Devojit. Next question is from Hari, who asks that how do we decide when to stop trying for something? So just to add here, as in, when do you realize you are not fit for something?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. Thanks for asking that, Shriyari. So, I would say enjoyment, right? So, this is my example in life. So, I'm a Bharatanatyam dancer. Will I ever be the best dancer in the world? No. But do I enjoy it? Yes. So, I would say if you enjoy something, then go ahead and continue to pursue it. If you don't enjoy something, and if you're constantly so there's a risk reward curve. So think about why you want to be in that field. So I wanted to build my skill set in analytics because I realized it's the future. So the more I build that, now perhaps I might not be the best analytics person in the world, but I'm definitely better than what I was 6 years ago. So sometimes it's a little bit about understanding. Do you want to be the best person in the world? Yes or no? You don't have to be. Sometimes it's just about, are you better at what you're doing? And the second aspect is, are you enjoying that? Is it giving you joy when you work on that? And initial learning is hard. It's uncomfortable. It's unhappy for all of us. But after a certain point, is it still continuing to sort of like, is it a drain? Is it bringing you joy? You can still try a second thing. You can try changing your learning strategy. Are there other ways of learning that? Instead of self-learning, can a friend teach you? Do you want to enroll in a course? Do you want to change the course you're enrolled in? So try these different strategies, and even after that, if you feel you're constantly going down a path where you're not getting enjoyment, you're not getting fulfillment, your learning doesn't seem to be tapering beyond a point, it might be a time to introspect and say, who do I really want to be? Where are my skill sets naturally aligned to? And trying to find that fit.
Thank you for the beautiful explanation, Charanya. So we'll move on to the next question now. I think Debojit can take this up. So Debojit, sometimes while trying, like as part of a growth mindset, a person is trying his level best to reach to that target he has set for him. But if it takes too much time, an imposter syndrome comes into picture. So how to deal with that situation?
Okay,
So
so
that,
yeah.
sorry.
Yeah, yeah.
I know it was asked to you, Abhijit, but I just had to give a one-line answer. It's when you focus on the outcome, imposter syndrome comes in. When you focus on the process and enjoy the process, that would necessarily not be the case. Over to you, Abhijit.
Yeah, she's answered what I was going to say. I think the fact which you started the question with, Bharat, the fact that the person is trying is enough for growth mindset. The problem that's coming in is because of the focus on the fact that I have to reach there. It's the focus on the outcome or the achievement. See, we perceive that the world is actually encouraging us for the outcome. That's actually a myth. Eventually, what leads to achievements and outcomes is the process, and the world also then gets aligned to the fact that you are very, very hardworking and smart working for that matter. As long as you've taken the journey, that's enough for growth mindset. This session today has nothing to do with the outcome.
Great. Got it. And I think the next question is from Riddhi, which is a very, as in a practical question. So she teaches French as a passion. So she's asking, how can she inculcate growth mindset in her online classes?
So really, I think Carol Dweck's TED Talk is a must watch for you. So just constantly encourage you. So when you give praise to your children, don't say, hey, you're smart, you got this. Say, hey, I like the way you put an effort towards understanding that. I like the way you made an attempt to push yourself to say these new words in French. So always appreciate the effort. So that will incentivize the children to put in more effort. Never appreciate the end process. So never say you got 70% in French, you got 80% in French. Try and say, hey, you've mastered X% of the concepts. Now let's try and master the next set of concepts. So just with your language, it doesn't matter if you're virtual or if you're in person. It's a lot of like the words that you use can really help mold that growth mindset.
And this is a brilliant example of parenting also. I mean, it is so eye-opening as a parent, or if you have seen parents, the number I have seen, I don't think process praise is at all a part of the part of growing up in India. I'm not sure about abroad. And this can absolutely change the way the child visualizes his future also, and understands what is eventually rewarding. And the reason the child right from the beginning rewards the out or thinks the outcome is more important, because he's being fed to think like that. If he's fed to think that the process is more important, the entire thought process
Yeah,
changes.
parents celebrate outcomes, right? They like to say my kid is first rank.
Yeah,
Um,
which
that
I
has to
think,
change.
yeah, very important, interesting.
Next question, Debojit, is connected to our previous sessions from season 1. So one of the question is like, how can an introvert person practice growth mindset?
I think interesting question. That is, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert has nothing to do with whether you want to practice a fixed or a growth mindset. If you remember, we mentioned in the networking session in season 1, an introvert is a person who draws energy from inside, and an extrovert is a person who draws energy from outside. There is no other difference. I think we sometimes confuse an introvert and an extrovert with someone who is more confident, who is more outgoing, and who is going to be more successful, the extrovert person. But that's not the case. I have seen hundreds and hundreds of people who are introverts and are much, much more successful. In fact, I think the ratio would be the reverse in terms of eventual success that people receive, because these are people who are able to listen better. These are people who are able to empathize better and eventually become more successful in life. Growth mindset is a mindset that you are carrying with yourself in order to learn more, in order to be open to more opportunities, in order to take risks, reward actions, embrace imperfections, all of it that you can see on the screen. So actually has no connection with being an introvert or an extrovert.
All your stereotypical CEOs, your Sundar Pichai, Satya Nadella, Tim Cook, all of these people are introverts.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think this is the last question for the day we can take up, which is difference between the growth mindset and positive thinking. Benjamin has asked this question.
Charanya, you want to take that?
Charanya, you can answer.
Yeah, I would say, broadly, positive mindset is one small aspect of growth mindset. So Debojit gave you 2 pointers on how you can build your growth mindset, right? The first step of that is positive thinking. Yes, thinking that effort and ability can help you achieve something. The problem with positive thinking is, it just stops there. It stops with the narrative. Yes, you think positively, but what's the next step? Growth mindset helps you define those next steps. Like, you focus on process, you learn to enjoy the process, rather than focusing on the outcome. You learn to take feedback, you learn to accept feedback, you learn to give feedback. So there's growth mindset is really about how your neurons work, and how, it's based on how your brain works, how your brain adapts to learning. So it's a little more scientific and comprehensive than just perhaps, just positive thinking, which is like, you keep thinking you can do it. That's great. That's the first step. But what's next? So growth mindset is like the comprehensive package that defines all the different behaviors that leads to a full circle.
Yeah, thanks, Charanya. All very, very specific answers given. Thank you, Bharat, for taking up the questions. I can also see a lot of other questions, guys, but we just run out of time. It's just past 1 in India right now. But we will. You can post all your questions on the LinkedIn post that goes just after this from the Crack platform, and Charanya and I would be very happy to answer them over the next 24 to 48 hours. So please feel free to keep posting all questions that you keep having on growth mindset. Thank you, Charanya, for joining us. I think it was a wonderful opportunity for all of us to learn growth mindset together, something that we have been missing big time in our lives on a daily basis. And thanks for opening our eyes to this concept.
Thanks, Devojit. It was great. It was very energizing. It's like 12:30 in the night here, but I'm all energized now. It's always fantastic to interact with people, and the questions were amazing.
Yeah. Also, I agree. People who have joined would have realized the kind of difference that growth mindset does. Guys, the difference will be created if you start practicing some of these on a daily basis. And as mentioned, even multiple times in season 1, Cracked is about taking up some skill and maybe just take that one outcome or one takeaway for the day, and then trying to see whether you can do it in your daily lives, and does that create the difference. That's when you will see the real difference coming up, right? Okay, so I would take this opportunity to unveil the second session also. On the second session, that's exactly next Saturday, 12 to 1, we'll be taking up a very interesting topic, which is the need of the hour, virtual effectiveness. The whole world has turned virtual, right? For our meetings, for our team members, for even talking with families, for delivering value, for sales, for marketing, for everything. Now, virtual effectiveness becomes important. I am going to talk about, along with my guest speaker called Abhishek Deshpande or Desi. That's how we lovingly call him. He's going to join me for the session next week. Desi right now is very famous for his podcast. He's a famous podcaster. Along with that, he drives technology strategy, innovation, and incubation for Deloitte's advisory business. He will join us from New Jersey next week, next Saturday. So I'll see you all next Saturday, same time, 12 to 1. Thank you again for joining and the fantastic participation. I agree with Charanya, the questions were amazing, and we want to keep answering them in the next 1 to 2 days. Thank you again, Charanya. Thank you, Bharat. And we'll see you together again 12 o'clock next week.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Charanya.